there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com, with this week's episode of the Market Monday. Well, Market Tuesday. I hope everyone enjoyed their Labor Day. Didn't have time to do one since it was a holiday yesterday, but I thought I'd at least not skip a week and talk about some things that went on over the weekend at the Pax West Champs, as well as some upcoming the announcements from Pax West and how that's going to affect the marketplace. So first of all, I want to talk about the Champs tournament, which we had, the Modern especially, which was affecting prices. If a lot of you saw the deck lists were mainly Abzan. Let's see if I can find some of those lists really quickly here in Modern. And we saw a ton of Abzan decks. Doesn't look like we're seeing it here on Goldfish's list here. But the pros, at least the pros that were invited to the Worlds, were huge of the pool were on the Abzan. I'm just going to pull up an Abzan list here, though, to see what it looks like. These are very... Oh, here we go. The World Championships decks. We had a ton of players on the Abzan. It was overwhelming the most popular deck. Players like Louis Scott Vargas and Seth Manfield especially were on it. So this is pretty much the go-to deck, which is running Grim Flayer. So that it's almost like your another Tarmogoyf for the Grim Flayer. It's trying to get out of Lightning Bolt range, and it also sets up your hand quite well. Has synergy with the Lingering Souls, and it is just really, really powerful in Modern if you can get up to that 4, because that's quite a clock with both the Tarmogoyf and the Grim Flayer. Some of the decks were on Tasigur. Other decks were not on Tasigur. Tasigur is about as budget of a card as you can think right now. It goes in Grixis. I think Grixis actually likes it more than Abzan. And it also goes in a few other decks. Jund, every now and again. Like non-Dark Confidant Junds usually like the Tasigur. So I think that picking up Tasigurs might be a smart move at $2.50. I think they still have a little bit of a time period to even go down a bit more. We're seeing that because they were in an event deck, and there's just so many copies of Tasigurs running around. But I think it's a smart place to kind of park your money. I don't think it's going to go down much less than 2. And the ability for this card to go up in value is I mean, it's just a given that 2-3 years it's going to be worth more value. So first of all, I think Tasigur is a great pick that hasn't spiked from this deck. But if you may notice, the Grim Flayer was the big breakout card, and it went crazy. So it doubled in price. It's funny because I was actually joking with some people before this tournament saying that sometimes the MTG market has no rhyme or reason. Because if you looked at the standard, Grim Flayers were being used about twice as much as Liliana, and were 1/4 of the value of Liliana. So it just made 0 sense why Grim Flayer, which is also a mythic out of the same set as Liliana, see more play, yet cost less. It just has to do with casual and just planeswalkers and people just valuing a planeswalker, because the collector value actually does have a lot to do with the price of a card. And Grim Flayers, for whatever reason, just weren't a collectible card. Again, now I'm thinking that now it's seen play in both Abzan and Jund, the price is going to stay steady around the $20 mark. I think that 20 is even a heavily played card in a Modern format. I think 20 is pretty much the ceiling for these non-collectible cards in a standard print run. So we see that with Gideon, we see that with Kaladesh, we see that with a bunch of other cards that have had their full kind of time in the opening and draft season. I think we're going to have to see Liliana go down in value and kind of match the standard and Modern demand. I have no clue why it's still at $45. It's not an overwhelming, it's not even, I don't think it's close. Let's just check to see if I'm making sense here with the overall played cards. Yeah, it doesn't even hit the overall top 10 cards played in standard, and is seeing very little play in Modern. Some Jund and Abzan decks are running like a 1 of. So it just, still Liliana being as high as it is quite puzzling. So top spells, we don't even see Liliana make the top 10 spells. We don't see Liliana really hit until way down the list. There she is, 15. She's 15th most played card. Most decks are running between 2 and 3 that actually do play her, and is in 16% of the decks. So yes, that is pretty high. of a kind of a standard share here, but it's getting outclassed by like Gideon, who does see tons of modern play now. In fact, he was kind of the breakout card in the Abzan decks, at least the Mirror Breaker. And also, you were starting to see a Mardu or just a black-white tokens deck, and even Soul Sisters picking up Gideon, as the card is just extremely powerful in Modern. Just the ability, Gideon feels a lot like Koth to me, the ability to either protect itself with the 2/2, and then just start going on the offensive for 5 damage. And then the emblem is really, really good with both Soul Sisters and with anything that runs Lingering Souls. The emblem is always a threat, making 2/2 spirits rather than 1/1. So I think Gideon might be the time to pick it up. Rotation for Gideon is not too far off, actually. It's crazy how quick the rotation in Standard is. So that's one thing I want to talk about right now for today's Market Monday, is cards to get out of. So we'll get to that portion. Right now I'm just going to talk a little bit more about Champs and the Modern. So let's go back to that Abzan list with the Grim Flayers. I think if you want to get out of Grim Flayers, I think that's fine. We do have like another Standard season that Black-Green still might be the powerful archetype. I think as long as Sylvan Advocate is in the format, green is going to be the dominant color. Sylvan Advocate just seems to outclass every card right now in Standard. It's just a dud to throw in a deck. It works perfectly as a beater, works perfectly as a way to protect your Planeswalkers later on. The one bad thing about the Advocate is a lot of these decks that are coming out of Kaladesh well, actually, we haven't seen a lot of Flyers or even Thopters, so I think it actually does a pretty good job of just clogging up that board early and then turning into a 4/5. The Animator lands are still in the format, so Sylvan Advocate gets that plus. I think Bant still looks very good, even without Collective Company, and still a shell with Tameo. And so I think I really haven't seen enough from Kaladesh to really say that green is going to lose its dominance. The only other color that I think gets a lot better is the blue-red archetype. We're seeing both Chandra and the Sahili, which are really, really good red-blue cards. So I think that Grim Flayer is still going to see a ton of dominance in Modern and Standard. So basically I talked to a number of different people about Abzan. I was quite puzzled why it was the choice in the Worlds. I think I agree with, I talked to Morton, the Scred Red, Ace of Scred Red, if you want to go see that deck, of why they would run Abzan over Jund. And it's just because Abzan usually beats Jund because of Lingering Soul is really good, so is Path to Exile. And a lot of their cards don't die to the opposing Lightning Bolts. Like if you get the Grim Flayer above the Delirium and the Tarmogoyf, then the Lightning Bolts do not kill the card, and then you just go over the top of them with these more impactful cards like Lingering Souls and whatnot. So also, Path to Exile seems to be better than Lightning Bolt right in the format, because Path to Exile can deal with the Swift Spears and the Death Shadows and the opposing Tarmogoyfs and all those type of cards. So I think that's why they're on Abzan. Abzan also does have access to a little bit better hate with white, and Gideon is just incredibly powerful in these type of mirrors. So that's kind of the reasoning for Abzan. I think that people played this safe. So I think that there's decks for GP and there's decks for Champs, because there's only a certain amount of rounds. And so also you have a lot of like wiggle room in Champions, because the Worlds, because you don't have to go like 8-0. So you can play a deck that is more of what we call these 50% decks or 51% decks, and then still feel good, because the majority of the time your deck is just going to have a better matchup against the entire field than against specific matchups. So I think that's one of the reasons too for running Abzan. So we can take a look at some of these other cards in Abzan and see if there's any of them that are worthwhile investing in. I hate Tarmogoyf as a spec right now, because it is on the Modern Masters is coming out. Modern Masters 3 is coming out in March. I personally don't think Tarmogoyf is going to be reprinted in Modern Masters 3, because there's just too much value that is already going to be reprinted in the form of like Snapcaster Mage, Caverns of Souls, and Liliana, which I think they can easily go for. I also think they need to do like a reprint of Aether Vial and Blood Moon. There's a bunch of other $50 cards, and you don't want to pack the Modern Masters 3 with too many over $50 cards. You want to save them for other reprints, because remember, Magic needs to make these other products like the Eternal Masters and these box sets actually enticing, so they need to leave a few of these chase cards. And I think they're going to let Tarmogoyf have a little bit of a rest here. I think if you triple reprint it We're already still seeing Tarmogoyf as the lowest it's ever been. I think it just reached $135 for Tarmogoyf. So it still continued to go down for Modern Masters 2. And I think they reprint it in Modern Masters 3. It will never have a chance to recover and for the first time dip below $100. I don't think that they want that to happen. I think that having a card in Modern over $100 is always something that makes it so it's like a legit collector's type format. So it's just a necessary evil, I think, in Wizards' mind, in their marketing mind, to kind of entice people into the format. So there's always something better you can upgrade it to. So I don't like Tarmogoyf. I've already given my reasons that I think Tasigur is a good little investment just because it's a great place to park your money. I don't think it's going to go below much of what it is. I mean, it's almost down to $2. And for a card that sees play in so many different formats, Commander, it's a great Commander. It's great. It's seen Legacy play before. It is a staple in Modern. If Grixis decks become good again, then it's a wonderful addition to Grixis decks. Most Grixis decks run between 2 and 3 with the Grixis Delve strategy. It depends if they like Angler, Grimlock Angler better than Tasker. Most run like a split of the two. So Inquisition just had a huge reprint and has actually recovered. So we've seen that people have given up opening the Conspiracy. So we've seen Inquisition start to recover quite a bit. It's back up to $9, which is a good sign for Conspiracy because now it's a rare that's actually worth opening for. And the other cards out of Conspiracy seem to have leveled off a little bit. So I think it's just because of the hysteria, people have given up opening Conspiracy. My personal thoughts of Conspiracy, I wasn't impressed. I didn't like it. It seemed to be a boring draft format compared to Conspiracy 1. Conspiracies were all lackluster. There wasn't a lot of cards that really affected the entire board. There's a lot of weird cards that just like affected, very aggressive. It was insanely aggressive compared to Conspiracy 1. And so, I don't know, I really preferred the gameplay of Conspiracy 1. I think that's going to affect the amount of Conspiracy 2 actually opened. If it doesn't end up having the estimated value to be worthwhile to open it, then people like the mass eBay sellers are going to quit targeting the Conspiracy 2 and then go for things like Kaladesh, which Kaladesh has insane value in it right now with 2 Planeswalkers that are pre-selling for quite a bit. Path to Exile is one of those cards that is around $8 and has been reprinted a million times, and they've shown they'll reprint it a million times. So I think that, don't we actually see this in one of the Commander sets? Yeah, I believe it's in the Angel. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it is getting a reprint in the Commander Anthologies, which is another set that was announced at Pax West. So there's going to be 4 Commander sets for $160 that is going to be released. One of them is going to be the Angel, the Mardu Angel, or the Mardu creature that puts out demons, angels, and dragons. And then it had, I can't remember what the other ones were, the mono green deck, the green black deck from this year, and I want to say Derevi. I can't remember. I'll have to get back on that. So it's one from each year, and it seemed to have a lot of the green ones for whatever reason. Thoughtseize continues to go down. I've talked about this in decks in Market Mondays in the past, just to show how much supply is out there. So why would a Theros, which should start seeing some increases right now, still be going down? The short answer, and I've talked about this in previous episodes, you can go back to them, there is too much damn Theros out there in the market. Thoughtseize is one of those cards that is going to have a hard time to going up in value, just the insane amount of Theros product. This is another one that I got out of when everyone was investing in it after it started rotating, which I just was very puzzling. I got out of Thoughtseize around $18. I think it was right there. And you see this little blip of investments happening for people thinking that it's going to be a modern, it's going to start to see that trajectory in modern and recovering. And it's just continued to go down. That's why I don't like Thoughtseize and some of these other staples in modern that used to be good investments, but the whole market has changed. Again, more on that subject. Watch kind of my last Market Monday videos, and I'll explain my reasonings for why I do not like modern as really an investment at this point, just because of how many variables Modern has going for it right now to really make a healthy Modern format. We don't see a lot of Grand Prix next year in the Modern. We don't see a lot of camera time in, of course, Pro Tours. They really showcase these decks that really do lead to the spike in price of cards. The only time you see a huge price spike now in Modern is when there's like a new deck, or a breakout tier 3 deck that then becomes a tier 1 deck like Death Shadow did. So anyway, I don't think that cards like Thoughtseize and Abrupt Decay and the Fetch Lands and the Shock Lands are actually good investments anymore, just because of how many exist in the format. Speaking of fetch lands, they have recovered a little bit, but I think it's just because people are, when you get like 90, you get like a couple hundred new people investing in cards because they heard it on other videos or other people are doing the same. These copycat type strategies work in the short term, but again, once you bring too many investors investing in the same thing, there will be a bubble and then there will be a crash when there's no buyers for it. Now, fetch lands are still, I maintain they're a good place to park your money, but they're not like a phenomenal place to expect either fast returns. I would even say within 2 years. Shocklands have been a very good representation of that. We're also having the enemy fast lands that are going to come from Kaladesh that are going to kind of compete with more land slots in the format. So you might actually see some of these like Storm decks not even care about fetch lands if they can just get away with running a bunch of these just dual-colored lands. I think fetch lands, of course, are still smart, though, but it just adds maybe less of them have to be run, and now the fast lands are going to, like, again, Storm and just any sort of blue-red deck is going to want those type of fast lands, and they'll have the fast lands, the shock lands, you still have access to the check lands and things like that. So I think that it's kind of cool, though. We'll have a lot of budget alternatives in Modern. That means that we don't have to run like the top tier land mana base, and still I think you'll be fine. So speaking of the Kaladesh, I was quite disappointed. I might be the only one disappointed that we get fast lands. I did want to see enemy colored fast lands. They kind of clash with the other two lands that exist in the format right now, with the lands out of the Battle for Zendikar, the dual lands out of Battle for Zendikar, and the lands out of Shadows over Innistrad are not going to synergize at all with the new lands. So that's kind of awkward. We still have the enemy colored animation lands from Battle for Zendikar, and we do lose the pain lands, was why I'm so disappointed, because I think that, like, I really wanted to invest in Mattery Shapers and Thought-Knot Seers and Reality Smasher, but I think they're done in Standard. I don't think you can justify playing that type of strategy without the pain lands. The pain lands are really a tricolored land in the format when they could add for colorless and then 2 other colors, specific colors, which is kind of, I'm sad about it because I really wanted to see if I could run like a Eldrazi tribal type deck. I've had a lot of success with it recently with Eldrazi tribal, just mono blue, and some other versions. But I'm thinking that it's going to be with a lot of these crew-based vehicles not coming into the battlefield as a creature, it makes Eldrazi Mimic a lot worse. And I think that the crew type cards really actually compete with those type of Eldrazi, like Thought-Knot Seer and the Reality Smasher slots. And they're just going to be a lot easier, I think, to just play than rely on like having to have a colorless source for the Eldrazi's. Eldrazi's Displacers continues to seem to be pretty busted, with a lot of the Kaladesh having a ton of enter the battlefield triggers. I'll talk about that in a spoiler video coming up shortly. So I don't know. I don't know what the fast lands are going to affect with Standard, but they're all going to be very messy, all the lands working together, or not working together, not synergizing together. So I think that Blue-Red gets a lot better because of the fast lands and having the best animation land, and also having a nice little Planeswalker. So it might be time to just pick up like cards like the Fevered Visions, for example, which still seems very, very... that's Fevered Convulsions. We don't want that card. Let's go the Visions out of the Shadows of Innistrad. This card just seems to be a lot... still undervalued at $2 in a deck that you see everywhere. It's still a really good deck. It gets insanely better with both Chandra, and it loses Jace, but that's really all it loses out of the format, because you still, and some of like the Fiery Impulse cards hurt a little bit, but if you check out the deck list that rotates, it really loses nothing. The 2 namesake cards, I actually think that you can go away from like the Thing in the Ice and the Bedlam Reveler. You still have Storm Chaser Mage, but now you can just add the Planeswalkers, and that means that you are a lot less vulnerable to removal spells. Both the Planeswalkers do damage, is what we want them to do, but the rest of the cards like the Lightning Axe, the Incendiary Flow, the Tormenting Voice, Unsatiate, Collective Defiance, Visions, Temper, they all stick around. We don't really lose anything besides the Reefs, which you'll get the fast lands to just replace the Reefs. And that just makes this deck a lot more consistent with the 2 Planeswalkers, and I think the deck is perfectly solid. for rotation. We do get some cool Enter the Battlefield Game Life cards. There's like a mini Thragtusk that is going to be in the field that will give us a way to kind of combat this type of strategy. But I think that, speaking of this deck, it might be the time to actually pick up the Visions, the best card in the deck, the namesake of the deck, as Collective Defiance spiked way up, but the Visions did not. So going back to Abzan, though, I know I'm jumping all over the place. The other breakout card was the Collective Brutality. So now I'm going back to my Eldritch Moon video, Market Monday video, and I think I called him spot on, with the Grim Flayer being the card that went up in value from the Mythic slot. That's the one that I picked for the Mythics. And the Collectives going up in value. Both Collective Brutality and the Collective Defiance have both spiked up because they have found homes. Collective Brutality seems to be incredibly good in Modern because of the two options of being very relevant on turn number 2 of killing a creature and getting rid of an instant sorcery. Plus, always just the 2 life and 2 damage and 2 life is really good against burn because you can just drop a Lingering Souls token, get rid of the Lightning Bolt out of their hand or another card out of their hand, and then gain 2 life, which kind of negates 2/3 of a Lightning Bolt. So, very, very good card right there against the burn. And it's just really not dead against any card in the format. If you just have to use it to get rid of an instant or sorcery spell, you've already Thoughtseize them or Inquisition them. It's just nice later on. And it doesn't feel that as bad to top deck a Collective Brutality. I think 8-Rack also is a deck where Collective Brutality gets really, really good because if you get land flooded later on, you can still do things. It has that control and that discard type ability to the deck. Maybe a 1 over 2 in that deck. So I really think that Collective Brutality has a little bit of room to grow still. It does look like it has approached that $4 mark. It's $350-ish, $375-ish. And yeah, so you can see that one Liliana was in the deck, but you can see a lot of the sideboards did run Gideons. Even more of them ran more than just one. There are a lot of different types of decks. So I think that was really the breakout deck from the World Championship. We can see some of these other cards. Look at all those Abzan, but Titan Shift, Bant Eldrazi. Bant Eldrazi seemed to, well, it got BBD to the finishing. I don't know how well he actually did in Modern because it was such a huge format with a variety of different decks need to be played. But yeah, Living End seemed to have a little bit of a comeback. A ton of different decks. These are just kind of your normal decks that didn't really affect prices too much. So speaking of prices, my favorite place to go just to track prices is definitely MTG Goldfish. That's why I use that on all my Market Monday videos. It's just this Mover and Shakers is really, really good. Goes off eBay, TC. I think it actually goes off TCG Player. And this is the best way just to track and to notice if a card goes up. Sometimes you want to click this more than just the top 10, especially on the weekly, because you can sometimes see like some of these cards that have increased in value but not enough to hit the top 10. And if they do consistently like 5 cents a week, pretty soon those cards have actually gone up decently in price. So that's a huge advice, is to use MTG Goldfish. I'm not sponsored by them in any way, shape, or form. It's just a site that is very clean and crisp, and it's just very easy to navigate. So that'd be, as an investor, that'd be to add your toolbox. Definitely MTG Goldfish is my go-to site. So anywho, I think that the next thing I want to talk about is specifically Modern Masters too, where we're adding Return to Ravnica and we're adding the Innistrad. So let's just go over here and look about the cards that I think. This is just my my speculations. So I don't think so they're going to pick a few themes from the set, because they're going to focus on Innistrad and Return to Ravnica. And first of all, I want to talk about Return to Ravnica and going forward. I've talked about this in my videos in the past. Return to Ravnica seems to be a terrible investment in all of the cards. We saw that just the dominance of Abrupt Decay in Modern, and even Legacy. Legacy and in Modern, Abrupt Decay sees a ton of play because of the ability to have a card that cannot be countered and killing a card. So it makes these like black-green rock-type strategies very good against the blue decks because you have this uncounterable removal. It is keeping Delver in check. It's keeping a ton of other decks in check because it can just kill those type of tempo-based cards that used to see a lot of dominance. Same thing with Young Pyromancer. They can't protect it in those type of shells. So let's just go over here to Return to Ravnica. So if there's a card so dominant like Abrupt Decay, and it didn't have an ability to go above $10, that is a huge sign. Plus, we know there's an alternate art for Abrupt Decay out there that they probably want to get a printing in paper. We can see this right now. I can just click on Abrupt Decay. and it's got this alternate art. I swear it's got an alternate art in MTGO. It was spoiled for sure, but you can see that it did go up. And again, this is just people trying to invest, trying to say modern is the new thing, and it readjusted when they realized that modern has way too many. There's way too much stock of these type of cards and not enough demand, and it settled back down. So this is not a good sign. This was a good sign because I believe at this point, yeah, it was rotated out. And then, because this is during, you had Constantark here, and then you also had Theros. Yeah, so do we have Return to Ravnica legal? No, we did not back then. Or was it still just barely legal right there? Anyway, but then after it's plummeted down to the $10 value, and this should be when it starts to recover with just price trends in the past, 5-10 years. It's about 2 years after the set is gone that it starts to pick up, and all of the cards have not done so, and especially cards like Deathrite Shaman that just got a reprint out of Eternal Masters has just hurt the value of this. So I really do think Abrupt Decay will be in the Modern Masters 2. I think that Modern Masters 2 needs to have themes that actually work in the set. So I don't think that they're going to go tribal. I don't think that zombies out of Innistrad is going to be a thing. I also don't think that flip cards are going to be a thing just because of how hard they are to print in a format. You'd have to print the checklist cards from Innistrad. You'd have to make one, so they at least need to put like 5 or 6 cards. So if they're going to print Delver, they're also going to have to print a lot of other cards that want to flip. So I personally don't think that we're going to see flip cards in Modern Masters 3. And so Delver's Secrets is a card I think you can invest in, but we'll talk about Innistrad in a second. The cards I think are going to get reprints out of the set are not going to be Shocklands because they're just too hard to print in a Modern Masters set. But I do think Supreme Verdict and Sphinx's Revelation, and possibly even the Detention Sphere, are going to get printed. I also think that Rest in Peace is going to get a reprint in here. And I also think that World Spine Worm is going to be one of the kind of the bad mythics, the mythics that you don't want to open, because it does see a lot of play in Modern in the Goryo's Vengeance decks. It's actually the Nourishing Soul decks. It's the card that you want to exile for Nourishing Soul, or if you cheat in the World Spine Worm, it's not that bad because when you have to sacrifice it, you're still stuck with 3/5/5s. So I think World Spine Worm is going to get a reprint. I think Abrupt Decay is going to reprint. And I also think the Supreme Verdict and Sphinxes. So that takes all of the value out of the Modern Masters. Dreadbore also looks like it could easily be reprinted, and same with Needle. So probably 50% easily of these cards are going to reprint, and that's just going to kill the value of Return to Ravnica. And so that's a bad sign going forward for all of the heavily printed sets from Return to Ravnica on. I don't think that even like Theros or Khans are going to have a time to really increase in value or appreciate in value before Modern Masters 4 comes out. So I think that we need to really focus on casual cards of these sets that you can invest in. Cards like Trostani, which I don't think are going to see a Modern Masters reprint, or Niv Mizzet, that could easily... I think this one just reprinted, though, in the... No, the other one was in the Commander-based set. Or even Jared. All of these cards, I think, have a lot of room to grow, just because they're casual favorites. So we can check out other sets from the Modern, from the Gatecrash. Gatecrash suffers pretty much from the same... problem that the rest of these sets do. Is even like cards like Domri has not had the ability to actually grow in value or appreciate in value. Legion Loyalist is highly suspect for a reprint because I think Goblin Guide needs a reprint. So I actually think if there is any sort of tribal theme in the Modern Masters 3, it will be Goblins and Goblins Light. I don't think they'll focus too much on it, but I think there'll be enough of it to really showcase Goblins. So Goblin Guide, Legion Loyalist, and probably one of the Chieftains or the one that actually gets +1/+1 in Mountain Walk will probably see a reprint in Modern Masters. Maybe Goblin Grenade will be in there, and some of the other Goblins. I think Goblins is pretty easy just to shove and have it be splashable with these other type of like if there's a blue-red spell type deck, then they can easily put that in there. Goblin Guide, you want that in there. Legion Loyalist is another one. Tokens, if it's a white-red tokens, Legion Loyalist goes perfectly in that sort of strategy. If Lingering Souls gets reprinted, which I absolutely do think it will, then I think like a Mardu Tokens could easily be a thing. Yeah, so because it just the battalion is the the one I think will get a reprint in Modern Masters 3. It's the easiest one, I think, to do so as far as one of the keywords. I like Morbid out of Innistrad, and we'll talk about that later. Even though Morbid's been done a lot of times, I think it's just... Wizards tends to stick to what is familiar. They've done a lot of the same themes over and over, and I think Morbid is going to get the nod. So out of the cards that are worth money, I think Legion Loyalist is the rare that is going to get reprinted. I also think that everything else, like rares, are not worth anything in this set. Boros Reckoner could easily be reprinted. I think they probably will. The hybrids, I don't think will get a reprint in this one. I think they'll save that for Modern Masters 4, with Devotion being the theme with Theros. But Boros Charm will probably get a reprint. Absolutely, Boros Charm will get a reprint. Cryptgas could easily get a reprint. I could see Extort be the other type of mechanic. The Experiment 1, Evolve could easily be one, but nothing is safe here. There's no investments that are safe in Gatecrash that are not going to get the possible reprint from Modern Masters 3. The last set is then going to be the absolutely terrible set with Dragon's Maze, which I think is going to kill the value of Dragon's Maze, because I really think Voice Resurgence will be that other Chase Mythic that they're going to reprint in the set. So I wonder why some of the Abzan, I think Voice Resurgence and Abzan didn't see play over like the Grim Haruspex, just because Path is such a huge card, you don't get advantage. But Voice a lot of times does see play even in that type of shell, because it's a 2/2 that leaves back a token, and that token can actually get out of hand. The Rowzeric could easily be the other Planeswalker printed alongside Liliana. I think they'll choose a Planeswalker from both of these, well, Liliana and probably one from the past. So I'm probably looking at old school Tezzeret, the black. Well, I think I don't know if they'll print, because it's been 2 Planeswalkers in a row from the Modern Masters 1 and Modern Masters 2. So I don't think that Flip Garrick's going to get it. I do think it's going to be Liliana. It's going to be their chase card, not Tarmogoyf. So Rowzeric could easily fill that slot, or Dolmery could easily fill that slot. But I think for this reason they'll go back and print like an older card for Modern Masters 2. We'll find like something like the old Gideon could easily be, or Modern Masters 3, the Gideon, the 5-mana Gideon, because that'll be white. You'll have a white and a black Planeswalker. Or if token strategy, I think Sorin is actually a good one. Sorin out of the Dark Ascension. Or they can just reprint Elspeth, and any one of the token generation Elspeths would fit that slot. But I have a hard time thinking there'd be 2 of the newer Planeswalkers. It's going to be 1 and 1. So I think Rowzeric's actually safe. But everything else in the set is just plain garbage. Like, it's funny that actually Master of Cruelty is the 3rd most expensive card, when that was like a bulk mythic by the time it rotated. I think Blood Baron is actually not safe for a reprint, because it just fits very well in like a black-white. If black-white life gain is the focal point, Blood Baron will be a nice little mythic that's not too much. They need to have those low-end mythics that you can open and still want to open for gameplay, but not necessarily want to open for value. So that is definitely on the chopping block here for a reprint. And then again, everything else is just worth nothing. So let's then go over to Innistrad. Innistrad has some of cards that I think you should absolutely dump, which is going to be Liliana and Snapcaster Mage. These are going to be the 2 cards that are going to be the chase cards. I also don't think that Olivia or Stony Silence are safe, because Olivia can go into vampires. If they do go tribal and go into vampires, that's a thing. But it's just a very good card that people want. It sees a lot of play in Modern, and is going to be a good little mythic to open up. Black-red definitely fits that sort of control type shell. Gavany Township's one of the lands I think is going to be reprinted, because it sees the most play out of lands. But I don't think that any vampires or werewolves are going to see play. So I think cards like Mayor and Endless Ranks of the Dead are safe cards to invest in. And Mikaeus, I think this card will see a reprint. I think this is one of the other mythics that is going to see a reprint, just because it's decently valuable and fits perfectly in like a token shell. So again, nothing out of Innistrad that actually has value is safe. Geist just did get a reprint in a dual deck. It's going to continue to go down in value in that sort of dual deck, because it actually was one of the better dual decks. So Dark Ascension. Dark Ascension has a similar problem, that the Mikaeus is kind of up to $20. That's kind of crazy. It's a casual card. I don't see Mikaeus seeing a reprint unless Undying seems to be the mechanic of choice. But I think if they do go Undying, it's going to have more of a green maybe even blue feel to it. They might put Undying in green and blue rather than in black, because they think that it fits kind of the +1/+1 counter theme that they've done in the past for other Modern Masters. And a lot of the like Young Wolf and the cards that you need to kind of support are in green. Like Young Wolf and the Geist, the Stringgoat Geist, are the better Undying cards. And same thing with the 2/2 flyer. I think the other Geist is another card that perfectly works under Undying rather than in the black type strategy. Thalia, I think, will be the other reprint out of Dark Ascension. So the valuable card that has an option of going up is going to get the reprint. I think Huntmaster is safe because they don't want... It's either going to reprint all the flip cards. It's going to be Huntmaster, Delver, Garrick, and not Liliana, which I think is a mistake, and a few of the flip just to make enough to make the checklist, or none at all. So it's either... So Huntmaster itself isn't like safe either. So I think that of the other things, Gravecrawler might get a reprint. Messenger, I guess, with Undying could get a reprint. But I highly doubt that it's going to be like a wolf-type strategy. Lastly, we still have Avacyn Restored, which has the reprints available of Caverns of Souls. I think Caverns of Souls is going to be the other... I think it's going to be the rare, the expensive rare. I think Snapcaster Mage is going to get bumped up to a Mythic. I think Liliana is going to stay at a Mythic, and Voice of Resurgence is going to stay at a Mythic, and Caverns of Souls is going to be their chase rare at the rare slot. That's a $60 rare. So I don't think the Caverns of Souls is at all safe. I think it's a dud to put in Modern Masters 3 just to give it value. Avacyn can easily be another Mythic, and so could Crater of Behemoth. Tamiyo could be the second Planeswalker. That could easily be a choice, and Sigarda is definitely a Mythic that is not safe, and Gristlebrand I think is safe because it was a Grand Prix promo for quite a while. So I think that those Restoration Angel is going to get a reprint, Vexing Devil is going to get a reprint. I think Avacyn Restored is going to get the one that's going to suffer the most from the Modern Masters 3. Outside of the two sets, the focal point sets, Blood Moon, Aether Vial, Engineered Explosives, we could have a Sunburst type strategy again, that absolutely need reprints. A couple of those cards are gonna get hit. I don't think Dark Confidant's gonna get hit. I don't think Tarmogoyf is gonna get another reprint. I do think Noble Hierarch is gonna get another reprint just because it's so expensive. They might actually bump that up to a Mythic as well. But that is just my opinions. I want to know your comments in the comment section below about what is reprinted. The whole point of this video is that I think that these Modern Masters sets are going to happen too quickly for these later on sets to really appreciate and value in these post Return to Ravnica sets. They're terrible investments as far as modern staple singles. They're just going to be thrown into too many of these sets like Modern Masters, or even like these box sets that come out, these dual decks that come out. The risk is not worth it, in my opinion. So I think that going forward, we need to focus on casual cards. And there are a lot of casual cards. I think there will be a segment for another day, especially from Khans of Tarkir, that we can start targeting, that I think are better investments to kind of park your money in than these modern type staples. So we're on to over 35 minutes. I know these Market Mondays have been quite long, but I hope that you learned something from the market, so these sort of trends. We're in a different age of investments. The old strategies, I think, that used to make people like Corbin Hostler and all these other like high-time investors, or these big investors in singles, their whole strategies are not nearly as good as they used to be. It used to be a very dumb market. Did it see play in Modern? Yes. Okay, invest in it. It'll absolutely go up in value. Now there's just too many of those people in the field, and it's causing these bubble bust type things, these really high spike variables, and I just don't like them. I really like sticking after my casual type cards, or just cards that I think that are in these tier 3 decks that have a chance of actually going to tier 1 decks. Hope you enjoyed this video. I apologize again for the length, the duration. I wish I could get a little more streamlined. Maybe I'll have to start writing down a script. But some people do enjoy these long videos. Some people don't. I'll try to do a mix of both of them. This has been Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.